Hi, it's Lainy here back at Achievement for All, and today I'm joined by Claire O'Keefe. Claire is one of our achievement coaches working in a lot of schools, and Claire is going to be talking to us about emotion coaching. So hi Claire, welcome to the chat today.
Hi.
Right, so first of all, I guess introduce us to the subject. It's kind of what is emotion coaching?
So emotion coaching is an attachment-based tool. And it's basically about helping children and young people to self-regulate so that they can learn to manage their own emotions and develop those skills and that self-awareness. It's a body of work that was started by a guy called John Gottman, who's an American researcher. There's lots of work now in the UK as well around this area. And it's a relational approach to working with children and young people. And it's about us helping people to develop their internal regulation. And we've been very lucky, Achievement for, that we've worked with the founders of the Emotion Coaching UK organisation, which was fantastic. And we've looked at kind of the neuroscience of the brain, so really interesting stuff around what's happening, what triggers these behaviours, and then looking at the whole philosophy around meta-emotion. And then actually getting to grips with what are very simple steps actually in how you go about emotion coaching.
And so why do we use it? What impact does it have?
So from the research, there's a lot of research in America, but there's also quite a lot in the UK as more organisations are coming on board and using this, showing that individuals that are being emotionally coached are better able to control their impulses. So they are able to delay gratification. They've a much better ability to self-soothe when they're upset. They've got higher levels of attention. And then there's really interesting stuff around as well that, you know, children that are emotionally coached have fewer behavioural problems, and they even have less infectious illnesses. And they're generally more stable and resilient.
Okay, so if a school would like to use it, or even a college actually, or any setting, what would they do to implement it? How would they get this going in their own educational establishment?
So what we do is, once we become involved with an organisation, we start with a review process. So we would work with the leaders in the organisation to think about what are the current school strengths and what are the areas that we want to develop further. And we go through an audit process of that, working alongside key staff. And then what we look to do is to foster the understanding of the principles of emotion coaching, so that people get to grips with actually what it is we're trying to do and what we would like as the whole of the organisation to be involved in that, and to get the idea that we live and breathe this emotion coaching style of looking after children and young people and how we help them to manage and regulate their emotions.
So it can't really be done in silos, can it, in the school? It can't be, or in a college, it can't be just a bit over there and not over here. It's kind of a whole cultural thing that you're saying, isn't it? A cultural shift.
Yeah, that's the absolute ideal. That's what you're looking for it to go across the whole school, so that everybody has an awareness and an involvement and understands how to use it. But, you know, organisations can begin it in a much more smaller approach. So it might be that you decide a certain, key members of staff, these are the ones that we want to give the idea to initially, get them trained up, get them understanding it, and start it that way. And then it can kind of filter out. And that's also quite a good way in showing, you know, the positive, showing your whole staffing body that this is the positive, this is what, and then you get more people on board and it sort of spreads out that way.
Yeah, that's interesting that you say it can be done that way as well, because I know for very, very big organisations, and if you're looking at particularly the older age groups as well, it's often better to do kind of like a small pilot group, sort of prove how it works, isn't it? And then those people get really good at it and can mentor others as well. So it can be like you can take it on as the whole school, can't you? Or I guess do that kind of pilot thing, show the impact of it, and then get people trained up within the organisation as well, can't you?
Yeah, and exactly. And we as achievement coaches will come in and work with schools to identify, you know, what is the best route forward for them, because each setting has its different needs. So we would work with individuals to work out, right, you know, what's the best approach? How can we make this to have the most impact as quickly as we possibly can within that setting? So yeah.
So will it work with all age groups?
It is brilliant in that sense, yeah. So we work with primary, secondary, and also FE, so you can work it across the whole of the age range, because it's a technique. It's a technique that you can adapt and use with children, with young people, and young adults. You actually use it with each other, with adults all the time, because it's about developing self-regulation, isn't it? And you know, all of us at times need to develop that a bit further, don't we?
Absolutely.
So it's about us enabling people to become more consistent over time with how they regulate themselves, and that is a skill. That's something that, you know, we all need to learn.
Yeah. Okay, so for people that don't know much about it or have never really heard about it, can you talk us through, like, what do you do? What does it even mean?
Okay. So once we've kind of taught people around the neuroscience, we've talked about the triggers, what goes on in the brain, all of those sorts of things, got people to identify their own stresses and what stresses can be within their environment. We then teach you 4 basic steps, and it is really quite basic in terms of you just need to follow this through. So if I just talk you through those. The first step then is recognising the feelings. So recognising the young person or the child's feelings and emotions and empathising with them. So getting across the point of view that actually all emotions are normal, they're natural, we all feel these things, and that we're all trying to communicate something. So getting that sort of acceptance of what's happening. You then move into the second step, which is about validation. So within this, you are validating those feelings that person or child is having. And it may be that you're helping them to label those, so you're empowering them with language, and it may be you need to provide, particularly for younger children, the language so that they can, in the training we talk about name it to tame it. So we help you get the words so that you can actually say, I'm feeling angry, I'm feeling frustrated, I'm feeling sad, and so that you reflect that emotion back at them so that they can start to get a feeling of control back into the situation.
And it's interesting because I think, just to sort of interject a little bit, that as they get into secondary school, I'm guessing that you can give them far more advanced language, because even at secondary school and teenagers, they sometimes find it difficult when they're feeling an emotion to tell you what it is, don't they? So actually you also need to kind of grow with the age groups, don't you, and give them more sophisticated language and understanding of their emotions as you go, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. And it's getting them, the older they are, the more they are able to reflect that a bit more deeply about, well, why am I feeling like this? Why have I behaved in that way? Why has that triggered me to do X, Y, or Z? And the more we can encourage people to be reflective, the better that is for all aspects of life, really.
Yeah. And obviously, if you're starting it at the younger age groups, more the better, because they're already being trained to use it as they're growing, aren't they? So it's a great place to start with the young children, so that they've got it for life, really.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Okay. And I think, in terms of training people to actually think about how they're feeling, think about their emotions, and getting that acceptance that actually it is normal and natural to feel different emotions. That's what we all do. It's what behaviours or what we do with that is kind of the area that we need to work on, which comes later in the steps. But it's that actually we all have emotions, we all have these feelings going on, and that's okay. I think that's a really important message, because sometimes people are feeling quite difficult emotions and thinking quite negatively about themselves around that, and actually emotions are completely normal.
Okay, so I stopped you at step 2. Go on, let's go to step 3.
So in step 3, and step 3 is something that not every situation or every child and young person will need, but this is around setting limits on behaviour, which I kind of referred to a little bit earlier. So this is where it's thinking about what are the boundaries of acceptable and okay behaviour in that situation. And again, it's about having that conversation with them when they are not in that heightened state. So they're back to that calm, rational, you are able to have that conversation. And as I said, it's not always needed. Quite often we know when we've done something we shouldn't have done, or we've reacted we shouldn't have. And actually we don't need to have that as a conversation. But some individuals you will do. And what we talk about is ensuring that we retain the dignity for the child or the young person. So it's done, very sensitively and delicately as a conversation. And then we move into the last step. So step 4 is all around problem solving. So that's where we're problem solving with a child, which may be slightly different to what we might have done if we weren't emotion coaching possibly, but this is all done with the child. So again, when they're not in that heightened state, when they're calm and rational and able to have that conversation, we talk about, okay, how were they feeling? What were they thinking? Why did they do that? What could they do next time? Is there a better choice? Is there a way through this? And there's a really nice conversation around there that empowers them to own their behaviour, and to think about, okay, well, what do I want to do next time? What do I want this to look like? How do I want this to feel? So it's a real, teaching in the moment, learning as we go.
So there's a couple of things there I think that it's interesting to pick on, and one of them, I think you've mentioned boundaries, and I think this is so important because different teachers can have slightly different boundaries for their class, can't they? And if they go from one class to another, I suppose it's different if they're little and they're only going into their one teacher's class. But as they start to get older, they start to visit different teachers, don't they, and do different things. So does the school or the educational establishment, do they have to kind of agree to keep their boundaries the same in each room, or can it work if they've all got different boundaries?
I think it's useful that most schools will have a certain level of agreed boundaries anyway, and then within each classroom, within each teacher, we all have our different ways of doing things, and I think that's perfectly fine and perfectly acceptable. Emotion coaching's place within this is to support when children are finding it really hard to regulate their own emotion. So as long as we're following those 4 steps, then this is an effective system to use across settings, regardless of the little nuances within each. The geography might have this, and French might have this. Within that, I think you can, you've got your 4 steps, and this is how we work through, and this is what, how we work with that child or young person.
Yeah, that's really interesting, because actually that again sets you up for life, because you might find you have to be different in different situations and adjust to different boundaries. And so it's great because it means that you're teaching them very early on, doesn't it, if you catch them in the earlier schooling years, to adapt and be flexible within different settings and different environments.
Yeah, and I think children realise, don't they, that within different contexts we behave and we act in different ways. How within a school context there are certain things that we all know we should be doing and we should be behaving, and then, like we talked about before, there are those like slight tweaks and variances within certain classrooms, and you learn and that, and you adapt your behaviours, and actually being able to reflect and do that again is a life skill, isn't it? Because how I might behave in one setting at work, and then how I might behave if I visited a client at a different setting, or all those different things come into play. So it's really, I think it's really useful, particularly to get this reflective behaviours for us to think about, how I feel, why I feel like that, why I'm doing this, should I be doing this, could I be doing this a different way? Yeah.
And I guess sort of one last thing is thinking about the teachers themselves, and so the adults that you're training to do this. Obviously some things will happen for them, because certain things that children do trigger you differently, don't they? Because we've all got our own personal triggers, and we've all got our personal emotions. It doesn't matter how old you are. So is there some training? Does the CPD kind of cover that as well? Like how people can deal with it themselves as the adult trying to do it?
Yeah, so one of the big parts we do is we talk all about the neuroscience of what's going on in the brain, and within that it's a really nice piece of training, because it looks at what are our stresses, what are our triggers, what is actually physically happening in the body, what does it feel like, what does it look like. We cover all of that, and I think as well for staff that's a really nice way of understanding what's going on for the child and what's happening in that situation, or the young person, but also what's happening to me as I'm stood there dealing with that situation and what's happening, and helping us to reflect ourselves and think about, well, what's my triggers, what made me think that, so that we become that bit more reflective too. But it's also a very supportive mechanism, because it's we all feel emotions, we all have good days, bad days, we all have things that set us off that on one day we would have been fine with, but on another day it's the straw that broke the camel's back type thing. So it's really good at making us think about how we are all in this together, and that actually we need to be reflective, and we need to be kind to ourselves and kind to the people that we're around.
Yeah, Okay, it sounds amazing, because it sounds like it's kind of real self-development for every single person involved in the establishment. So, you know, staff and children, young people. So, sounds like the way to go, really, doesn't it? It's effective for everybody.
Yeah, and it does have great effects, and it's something that you work with, and it's an over time thing. So this is not a quick fix. This is something that you go into as a school and you develop this over time. And it's great that you get everybody involved in school. So it's, you know, your teaching staff, your pupils, your midday supervisors, you know, everyone and anyone that's interacting with the children and young people. We want them to be involved to develop this way of coaching children and young people.
It's a lovely way as well as bringing that sort of community together, and it's you know, brings the culture together, doesn't it, as well, which is really great. Brilliant. Oh, thanks ever so much for sharing that with us, Claire. It's really, really interesting, and I know that it's been hugely beneficial for the places that have taken it on board. So thank you for joining us, and thank you for watching. If you found value in what we've been talking about and it's interested you today, at some point there's going to be, I think, a link somewhere around here. Please click on that, and if you can, pop £1 in the pot towards our charity, because we do support all vulnerable young people and right up to the age of 24 in education and with their well-being. So I look forward to seeing you again in the next video, and finally, a big thanks to Claire. Thank you, Claire. Bye-bye.